Hey guys, it's Steven from On The Shelf. I'm sorry I didn't have a skip pre-planned for this, as I just didn't really have any props or time, and I just wanted to get right into it. So today, let's talk about a game that came out in 2020 that actually rather surprised me, and apparently many others. Star Wars Squadrons. Star Wars Squadrons was a game done by EA Motive, a smaller studio that has helped out over the last several years, actually helping out with Battlefront 2 to get it released back in 2017, and actually was a big reason, if I remember straight, as to why we actually got the fantastic, the flying, as they redid and reimagined everything for that, and actually helped give us the fantastic mode that we got there. And so when it was announced, actually in the beginning, well, not the beginning, but like the halfway point or so of 2020, that they were going to be coming out with a solo game, a lot of us, our ears kind of perked up. We were kind of intrigued. It was supposed to have a single player campaign. It was supposed to have a multiplayer element. We were kind of, we were all a little bit interested to see what we were going to get. And I'm actually honestly happy to say that EA's Star Wars Squadrons actually kind of delivers. Now, I'm going to make sure I preference this real quick and just stifle some expectation. It is a budget title. There is a single player, there is a multiplayer. Now, the single player is about 6 to 8 hours. However, it's fairly solid. There are a couple interesting characters, and obviously the overall story is fairly interesting, taking place shortly after the Empire falls. And there's a lot of time in between the sequel trilogy and the original trilogy, 30 fucking years, to have more and more games kind of explore these areas. And TV shows, obviously, as well, as we've got the fantastic Mandalorian, and apparently 20 million other shows coming out as well. So, this is obviously prime real estate, and so to see a studio kind of try to take a little bit of that initiative in a way and start focusing on games in between that timeline is smart. And it actually gives us one of, EA's better campaigns. Honestly, where I believe Battlefront 2's single-player campaign actually has a lot more range, per se. Obviously taking close to about the same amount of time period, right after the Death Star is destroyed in Return of the Jedi. So it's fascinating, how similar the games are in their timelines, but how vastly different they are. Battlefront 2 definitely has more potential, and, it introduces a couple of new characters that were at least, I won't say memorable, but have an opportunity to be more memorable if they, can either give us new games or introduce them in maybe some of the TV shows on an off chance. They're in the Star Wars universe, they're part of canon, so it'll be interesting to see if we actually ever wind up getting these characters in any other medium other than the one that we were introduced there to. But overall, I think Squadron's story is just better. It's just better told. That doesn't mean it's flawless by any means. I do have a few complaints overall about the story, so, mainly just because, but mainly most of it can be kind of, honestly swatted away by the simple fact that it is a budget title. One of the biggest issues that I had with was the fact that it gives you this false idea of exploration, per se. Like, in between missions, you're able to kind of just go around and talk to other teammates, which is actually great because it helps flesh out their characters, and it's something you can just completely brush off if you just want to get right to the end, right? I love that kind of stuff. That's perfectly fine. I have no problems with that. It's the fact that you don't actually walk there, you kind of teleport there. Now, granted, it makes sense in VR, but when you're playing just regularly, it's just kind of, it's a little bit jolting, per se, because, like I said, you just literally just click and point, click and point, click and point, and me and my dumbass completely forgot about the fact that, oh yeah, I forgot that the game was actually, made with VR in mind, and so, it is still a complaint of mine just because it would have been nice to be able to walk around a little bit more. But like I said, I get, though, too, that it can kind of be set aside as a complaint because it is such a great VR title and a budget title at that. I've still got a few things here and there, a few little nitpicks here and there, but really overall, I think the campaign is rock solid considering the fact that it's a $40 game. And, it definitely helps you get used to playing the game overall, which is the biggest goal of a single player, especially if you add a multiplayer or a co-op experience with your game. It helps you really understand and sort of master the controls, especially since sometimes looking at that control panel, especially as they start giving you more things, more options, and they start making it to where you can be more tactical with your flying, whether it's boosting power to your shields, or boosting to help ram through things, or boosting power to your engines to get away from shit, or boosting power to your weapons, so that way you can destroy shit, you can fire for longer. It's all like a balancing act. It's all making chess moves while you're on the battlefield, and this campaign really helps focus that up for you and help you understand how well you need to utilize all the systems at all times. You can't just bulldoze through everything, and I actually really like that. I also genuinely like the fact that it really helped explore more of the galaxy, and it really lets you go ahead and play into different ships. It didn't just stick you into one ship. It didn't just stick you into TIE Fighter or an X-Wing. You got to play up, a small plethora of different ships. I mean, there's 4 classes, but essentially 8 different ships. And it really did give you an opportunity to kind of play in each one throughout the campaign on both sides, which I genuinely dug. I think, actually, too, that I really liked the fact that the campaign was told with both perspectives in mind. Both perspectives. That's the thing. They always say, no matter who the villain is, they're always going to think that the hero in their own story. So I genuinely like the fact that, these guys weren't too cartoony for the most part as villains. They actually were genuine people with genuine ideas, and really thought that they were doing what they thought was best. And that is important as you're telling stories from the Empire side. It's something that they tried to do in Battlefront 2, and they just didn't get as well across as they did in this game, surprisingly. And I guess that's the reason why I say that I felt like Squadrons' campaign overall was better. And now that leads us into the multiplayer aspect. And this is where I would say still, I get, once again, it's a budget title. I need to reiterate this, not only for you, but also myself, as I try not to be hard on the game per se, because obviously it was a risky maneuver that EA wound up, greenlighting. That Motive had this idea for something and wound up throwing it out there, and it wound up really succeeding. And I guess, if anything, most of my nitpicks are just the fact that I just wanted more than anything. And honestly, that's a high regard to your game. That's not actually a bad thing. If anybody's ever saying, man, I wish we had more of this, it's obviously a good thing. You never say, I wish I had more of this, if it was absolute dog shit. So, it's one of those things where obviously you don't want to overstuff and you don't want to overfill, and waste what you had there. You definitely make sure that you trim the fat for sure. But, it obviously is heartbreaking that, we lost support for Battlefront 2. We're not going to get support for Squadrons. And that's really what hurts me the most, is the fact that we're really not going to get any, genuine Star Wars content for a while. Eventually we're going to get Fallen Order 2, but that's a single-player game. And that's perfectly fine. I'm not mad about it. I like the different variations, but man, what a missed opportunity. To sit there and have, multiplayer license, a multiplayer game, continue to get not just updates, but, a little more content. It doesn't have to be over the fucking top. It doesn't have to be Activision levels with Call of Duty where I'm getting 5 maps a season. It'd have been just fucking nice to get, a little bit of content, maybe a new map or two, maybe a couple new maps every few months or something. Something to just help it to spice it up and keep making you want to come back and explore more. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Now, multiplayer is actually confined to 2 modes for the most part, and that's it. And that is dogfights, which is basically the team deathmatch, 5v5. And then you have fleet battles, which is, once again, a 5v5 mode, but there's more of an objective. Trying to take out each other's capital ships and kind of move the needle forward. And it's more tactical. It's definitely something that... This is where I wish we would have gotten a little more content, because while I like the style and I think it's a fun mode overall, it just kind of stinks because it definitely feels like it could have done with, different variations of it, to where maybe there were more players or, more bots or something along the lines of, to really kind of help give you this bigger overall experience, especially considering the fact that the flying the tactical elements, the communication, between your allies if you're playing with anybody that or, you just want to get on the mic and just talk some shit. And, it's definitely there, and it's kind of sad that was all that we wound up getting. But the two modes overall are pretty good. Fleet battles, they are fun. And they are, that it's, like I said, it's what we want when it comes to, a Star Wars game, especially when it comes to, like, flying and dogfights in space. Dogfight is perfectly fine. But it's just, obviously, fleet battles is where it's at, Going back and forth, trying to destroy each other's capital ships, it's a lot of fucking fun. And, like I said, it does have AI enemies in there as well, so it's definitely, like, that perfect blend, right? Because it's one of those things where that's where, like, especially, like, the old school Battlefront games succeeded, and it's been brought up a few times, too, talking about, Battlefront in general, but that's where Battlefront 2, the original ones, succeeded so much, was because they implemented both bots with human players, and so it made it to where, like, you could go on a streak. That's what made Titanfall 2 so damn good. You go on these streaks, killing small minion guys, and here comes the badass, from the other team, and now you get to sit there and go, head to head with them, while, other members of their team and other members of your team are going to shoot at one another. And it lends to these really awesome moments. And so that's why, obviously, Fleet Battle stands out a little bit more than dogfights, which is sad because I feel like they could have just implemented more, AI enemies in there and kind of try to see if they couldn't balance it out a little bit to make it to where, dogfights could have been a much more immersive battle. But either way, both of these ones are great. But like I said, my only real complaint is just the fact that we either couldn't get more modes or more variations on modes, or just like more content. Now, before they went ahead, and I feel like they're done mostly overall with the game. There might be like a small little staff, like a little skeleton crew of like a handful of people to kind of just put in a little more details and, put in a few more patches and put out a few more cosmetics from time to time. Every like 60 days or something like that, they kind of, have something else that's available to go ahead and go out there and grab. And, but I feel like most of the team's kind of done with the game, but we did wind up getting one more map that was actually based on the campaign. I wish we would have gotten a couple, because there's a couple of really badass locations I wish we would have been able to get into the game, and it's kind of sad that we're not going to get it. And it gives you actually a total of 8 maps, I think is what I remember counting out. It's either 7 or 8 maps. It's not a lot, but, it's enough to where you'll feel like there's at least a difference in the game, but obviously it's not something that's going to last a really long time, except for the very hardcore players. We actually got 2 new ships, which was awesome. It was something that I don't think any of us were expecting, but we were really, really hoping for. But it was cool of EA, and it was really cool of Motive to be able to get it out, to give us the B-Wing and, what was it, the Defender? But yeah, the fact that it was able to give us these 2 ships to add to the rotation, and, and add to multiplayer, I thought was really awesome. They came with a few new of their own mods and stuff like that too. And it definitely helps with the gameplay. It definitely helps, with giving variation, which is always super important in any multiplayer game. So it was really awesome to sit there and get that. Like I said, kudos to them for being able to drop a couple of really awesome updates, give us a couple more things that people really wanted. But like I said, it sucks because, like I said, I know it is a budget title and I know they've got other plans to do other stuff, but man, it would have been cool. Not even for like a full year cycle full of content. Not even all this. Just a couple more things here and there, just to kind of like, keep giving life to the game long after the game is, finished up, wrapped up, and done. Especially since this is going to be something that this and Battlefront 2, but Battlefront 2 did just get a bunch of new life with it being free on the Epic Game Store. That was huge, and just overall, just getting a lot of hype from other YouTube channels and YouTubers talking about it. And it really helps, it's going to help at least get us through the dark times with no new Star Wars stuff, especially when we've got all these TV shows, we've got all these things, especially seeing that they did add in some Mandalorian cosmetics and some, and some neat little things for like your cockpit and pit and stuff like that, which I hadn't even touched on. There's all kinds of like, goodies you can get. There's tons of cosmetics, different character models you can get, all, of all the different races and whatnot that have been introduced into the Star Wars universe. You can customize your X-Wing on the outside, paint jobs, There's all kinds of stuff, and it's all free. It's all earnable in-game, which is fantastic, especially because it was definitely ripe for them to try to take advantage of. And the fact that whether it was Motive telling EA to piss off or EA just saying screw it, just just fucking release it. Either way, good on you guys too for that as well, because, you know, it's one of those things, like I said, it was definitely ripe, and I don't think people would have even been all that pissed off, but the fact that you didn't just adds a little sweetness to the package. And finally too, like, I guess I want to touch on this as well, and that is just obviously the sound design and the music are phenomenal. It's a Star Wars game, so obviously music is always supposed to be good, but you never know. I warn of the day that maybe one day we don't get a game with good music, but I'm not gonna lie, people behind it, kudos to you. The music is phenomenal. They added, you know, obviously it's got the usual tracks you're used to with it, right? But they added a couple of new things too as well, and overall I think it's really great, really well accepted. Like I said, the sound design is phenomenal, especially, I don't have VR, but I can only imagine playing the game if I had VR, how fucking amazing it would be. Sound design in this game is phenomenal. And it definitely makes you feel like you were in the movie theater playing this game. And that is a huge thing. Big, big kudos to the team for that. You guys nailed it with everything. From, you know, the sounds of the blast, boom, 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 to, you know, the explosions and, you know, the guy out there fucking screaming, as he's fucking blowing up, spinning, boom, explosions. It's fantastic. You guys fucking killed it. And, yeah, overall, I mean, I really like this game, you know, as a whole. I think that, you know, like I said, and I've repeated many times, and I'll keep repeating it, even though it was a budget title, you can tell there's a lot of heart and feeling put into this game. I think you guys fucking killed it. And, actually, I look really forward to seeing what Motive has next, as I feel like they're getting better. They're starting to really kind of come into their own a lot more. Hats off to you guys. Like I said, I'm excited to see what you guys have next. Not gonna lie, if you guys had a little more content for Squadrons, you're able to kind of fucking get a budget, wouldn't be mad about it, but I know it's probably not going to happen. So, my final verdict for Star Wars Squadrons, I told you this was going to be a quick one, Star Wars Squadrons is an 8 out of 10. With a rock-solid campaign, you know, that isn't too long, but it's not painfully short, thankfully. It's a game that, at least, like I said, gives us a few of really interesting characters overall. And of course, like I said, if you have an opportunity to play in VR, fucking do it, because I imagine it's phenomenal. Everybody I know that's been able to play in VR has said it's fan-fucking-tastic. You should check it out for sure. It's one of the better VR titles, not only of all time, but definitely this year. This year seemed to crank out some really good ones. From Half-Life Alyx, which, once again, I didn't get to play on got fucking VR, but I heard it's phenomenal. And Phasmophobia, I always forget that one was put into VR. So there were some great titles that were really focused to be able to use in VR and really took advantage of it. And this is definitely one of them that if you have it, go fucking buy it. I don't know why you're still listening to me talk. And then, of course, you know, the multiplayer does add life to the game and helps continue its life cycle after, obviously, the devs walk away, whether, you know, it's them wanting to or having to. And there's enough solid stuff to keep you interested for a little while, but it's not one of those things where you're going to keep coming back every, you know, couple months for some new content or anything like that, so just be prepared for that. But if you're paying, you know, anywhere between $20 to its full price, $40 for it, you're going to get what you pay for. I guarantee it. And like I said, you guys are awesome, Motive. You know, like I said, you guys are definitely on my radar. When I hear you guys, you know, creating another game on your own, I'll be looking forward to it. And you guys just keep doing your thing, alright? That'll be it for me, guys. I hope you guys at least found this useful. Like I said, I'm sorry there's not as many jokes, there's not as much, you know, there's not any skits or anything like that. It's just straightforward, right to the point. But it was, like I said, it's obviously timing, you know, the lack of props and skits and stuff like that. And obviously I just wanted to just talk good about a game for a minute, especially considering the fact that 2020 fucking sucked. So, anyways, I'll talk to you guys later. I love you guys. I'll see you guys on the next On The Shelf. Bye, guys.
I waited for the night to fall in love. It's how you really know I fucked it up. That just a little lie is all it was. It's all it was. Didn't think for a minute. My intentions were so obvious. What the hell I admitted? You're the first one of your kind, not just one in a million. So we turn the lights out, turn the lights out.